These are the Star Wars The Old Republic class storylines ranked from worst to best, as well as what's good and bad about each class experience. My name is Nixxiom, everybody's favorite optimistic, power-hungry Sith Warrior.
And I'm ExiledRanger, a guy who has done literally everything in this game, because I have no life. We're talking about the good, the bad, and the dastardly today.
Now my job with this video is to share with you guys what's awesome about each class experience.
And because Nixxiom is going light side for some reason, I get to go full dark side and roast every storyline I can. Excuse me. So let's jump to lightspeed and fly in with our lowest ranking class, starting with number 8.
It's the Jedi Consular. This is your chance to play as a scholarly Jedi, a more knowledgeable one, aka you're a giant book nerd, all right? But it's cool. You're going to be interacting a lot with the Jedi Council. You're going to be promoted through the Jedi ranks a lot quicker, and you're going to be fighting the dark side as a consular in a more literal sense, dealing with a dark side plague unleashed by the Sith Lord Vivicar, even dealing with the children of the Emperor himself. No spoilers, though. As the consular, you are the great negotiator. You help build diplomatic relations in the Republic against the Empire. It's a great story. It's the class to play if you're a big fan of just studying the Force and not solving everything with your lightsaber.
Sorry, Nixxiom, I feel like I have to butt in here for a second. Let's just say it. This story has terrible writing. There's literally no point to picking a single dark side option in your entire playthrough of this story. It makes no sense. The companions are very grating and unenjoyable with their personalities. There's maybe like one good companion, you get him first, and you have nothing else to look forward to from your crew for the rest of your story. The storyline with the Children of the Emperor also felt extremely underutilized. There were so many ways you could have snuck in these secret Sith spies into the storyline with people that you knew, fracturing your trust with them, but it was never fully implemented. Your character always feels very wooden in how they speak too. I don't know what the voice director was thinking when they made this decision, but in trying to make the Jedi Consular sound very wise and this sage of Force wisdom, they made them sound incredibly boring to listen to. Zero personality, really flat performances from some actors who usually give some great performances. All this just really brings the Jedi Consular down for me, and that's why it's number 8 on this list.
Number 7, the Smuggler. You're living out the Han Solo fantasy, everybody. It's the every man for himself feeling run rampant. And as a smuggler, you're gonna be experiencing a lot more than just the Republic storyline. Let's put it this way, crime, it's a lot of fun. You get some pretty good one-liners in as well before jumping into combat as this guy, and treasure hunting and getting revenge in the storyline. It's a lot of fun, especially in the early game. What can I say? You're a smuggler. You're a giant scumbag trying to make your way through the galaxy. It's great.
While the story does have its strength, you know what? I'm gonna say it. You should be playing Skavik's story. The guy who steals your ship at the beginning of the story. He's having the adventure that I should be having. It would have just made the structure of the whole story a lot better without dragging me into Republic politics. The origin story feels trapped by its need to be a Han Solo tale, that you never feel like you have any agency. This lack of player freedom is why this story is at number 7. Number 6, the Sith Inquisitor.
This is the ideal dark side witch fantasy, Emperor Palpatine vibes, guys. Get ready to see the pure power of the dark side. Sith magic, artifacts, cults, using your powers to corrupt others. You will scheme your way through the dark politics of the Sith Empire against other Sith Lords. You have an interesting family history and legacy that will play into your story. And the best part, you have a hot MILF for your Sith master. I said it. I said it. Someone had to say it, and I said it.
Okay. Anyways, while I will admit that there are some really good bright spots to this storyline, especially when it comes to the building up of your Sith power base over time, and there are several returning characters as well in terms of NPCs, I will say that the antagonists of this storyline do tend to be a bit overly tropey and forgettable to a large degree. Not to mention that the light side versions of this story are also not written quite as well, in a similar fashion to the Jedi Consular. Also, I will say that the crew that you have, while mostly hits, does have one or two misses, kind of bringing this down.
Number 5, the Jedi Knight. The Jedi Knight is like Star Wars comfort food. Playing this class evokes the feeling of nostalgia for the original trilogy. just with a few less foster parents being burned alive. You'll have a fairly solid group of companions that you'll enjoy interacting with, a great group of guys that you can explore the galaxy alongside of. The Jedi Knight also has very strong ties to the greater storyline of the world and galaxy through its relation to the game world's main antagonist, the Emperor. I think the best part about the Jedi Knight, though, is that both the light and dark side options are mostly well written to fit the overarching story. It's a really fun class to play.
While the path is tried and true, this also tends to leave the story feeling a little bit vanilla overall. Not too much happens here that's unexpected or surprising. It's a bit too tied into the standard hero's journey that it doesn't take too many risks, which would have been a lot more enjoyable to experience. There's also a part of the story that feels like it's just skipped over entirely when it comes into Act 2. That had a lot of potential when it comes to the journey your character could have taken, either light or dark side. Number 4. The Imperial Agent.
That's right, the Imperial Agent. Most people would say that the Imperial Agent is their favorite class in the game in terms of the story, and they are well within their right to say that, because let me tell you, the Imperial Agent has one of the better written stories, especially in terms of dialogue. You have a great, strong collection of antagonists, with Jadis being the real highlight of the story. There's also some very inventive mission design in this class as well that ties into the story. You can disguise yourself in uniforms, use accents, cut off cameras, it's great. And lastly, the Imperial Agent has the best ship in the game by far. Do we all agree? Yes? No? Let us know down in the comment section.
In the top half of these rankings, we're kind of focusing a little bit more on missed opportunities, as they're all pretty great stories overall. I would say nothing exemplifies this more than the Imperial Agent, which had such grand aspirations for a story that thrived on agency. Pun intended. It kind of held back from pursuing it further. It also tends to fall a little bit too much into James Bond-esque tropes, and a lot of the companions are almost all unenjoyable to spend any time with.
Number 3, the Republic Trooper. The Trooper gives you that solid, military, sci-fi adventure with this interesting approach to delving into the themes surrounding dark operations in Special Forces. The companions that you get to work with in the Trooper storyline is also interesting. They feel alive. There's a solid feeling of narrative progression through the rank system as you play this class. And both the light and dark side choices, they all make sense, for the most part, for the storyline, depending on how you feel would best accomplish the mission that you're trying to do. But the best part about playing the Trooper, at least in my opinion, is who doesn't love the idea of shooting Sith Force users in the face or throwing grenades at them? The Trooper's just a lot of fun. The Trooper as a class often gets hated on, but I think it deserves a lot more love.
I will say, in a sort of strange inversion of the Imperial Agent story, while you enjoy the characters that come along with you on your story and your relationship with them and the world of Black Operations a bit more, the antagonists of this storyline are either not given enough time before becoming antagonists, or they aren't well developed enough to be interesting. The mission organization structure also leaves a lot to be desired. The quest design, it's just not that great. Also, there's very little satisfying narrative payoff that carries forward. It's always off to the next mission with very little reflection. Number 2. The Bounty Hunter.
As a bounty hunter, you'll be encountering solid writing with jokes that always seem to land. Unlike the Smuggler, I admit. And these jokes don't kick you out of the scene that they take place in. There's also an interesting theme, this interplay between the greed-focused world of bounty hunting and the potential to live by a code of honor among the Mandalorians. I think the biggest pro, however, is that there is a very solid narrative payoff at the end of every story chapter, no matter if you go light or dark side with most of your choices. And last but not least, you got the best one-liners in the game.
You will drop your weapons and surrender to me. You will realize what a complete idiot you are.
Agreed on all counts. However, while not as egregious as the Smuggler, there is a part of the story where you do end up being forced into stewardship underneath the Empire. Again, this just comes from the structure of the MMO, the fact that they didn't create an independent faction for both smugglers and bounty hunters. so this kind of affects this as well, although maybe not as frequently. The story also suffers from a similar problem to the Trooper, where the mission structure relies a little too much on uninventive mission design when it comes to targets that you have to hunt down, and could have expanded further to encompass a larger, more fulfilling story involving the Mandalorian culture.
Before we talk about number 1 though, please be sure to like the video, subscribe if you want, it means a lot, guys. Here we go. Number 1, the Sith Warrior, the best dark side master in the galaxy. It's Darth Barriss the Wide. He is an excellent antagonist whose story interacts with yours across all 3 base game acts. You will actually grow to hate this guy in the storyline. You will want to defeat him. It feels just like how a Sith should feel. It's great. You have an excellent crew that has a lot of layers to them, and 2 of them can be very dynamic in their attitudes and personality depending on your choices. As a Sith Warrior, you also avoid all the Sith politics and all that garbage. You are just there to fight and claw your way through the ranks, through the world of the Sith, the Empire. Is fun. You get to become the Aegis on the front lines in the war against the Republic. You also get to shock Vet whenever you want, and you get your very own apprentice who was formerly a Jedi. You turn her away from her master before you guys proceed to, well, let's just say, Do you agree with our breakdown of each class, guys? I'm sure many of you are going to disagree and say, no, this class is better, this story was more interesting. Were we fair with our assessments?
Let us know down in the comment section below. And if you want to learn more about how Darth Nixxiom started a cult in SWTOR that worshipped Bark's root beer as a galactic deity, watch the video on your screen now, because his first experience with the game was rather odd.